I thought of a story yesterday, and to tell you the whole way that I thought of the story would actually be boring, but in a short version, Stace read me a text that somebody sent her, and I blurted out the punchline of the story, and she looked at me like I had turds hanging out of my mouth. Says, "What are you talking about?" And then I told her, and I think she'd heard it. She remembered it, but it's been 30 years ago. You may have heard it, you may not. But in Smoky Mountain Wrestling, 1993, Brian Lee, primetime Brian Lee, is one of the baby faces, right? It was before he switched heel. And one of the female fans in, it might have been Johnson City, maybe somewhere up in the Tri-Cities, but was just head over heels in love with primetime Brian Lee. And this was not uncommon. It would have been uncommon if there wasn't a number of the female fans in love with a number of the baby faces back in the territory days. But she was goo-goo over it. And I don't know if I ever saw the young lady, but I from what I heard, it was not like she was the most attractive fan in the building. And she would just go and moon over him at the gimmick table. And she was always there at the matches, bless her. And he was like there was nothing going on. He was trying to be as babyface as he could and not run the girls off because they're buying his pictures and buying the tickets, but at the same time, not encouraging her because she didn't need any encouragement, right? So anyway, at the time, Brian Lee lived in Nashville, and he would come over on Thursday or Friday at the start of the weekend and go back on Sunday or Monday, whatever. And he was married. And some night that he's home with his wife in suburban Nashville, this girl, I can't remember what happened. It was either a health issue or an accident she was in or whatever. And it wasn't like it was not going to be fatal, but she's in the hospital. And she apparently, and this back in the days before the internet, you couldn't just come up with people's numbers and shit. She had done enough research that she had come across Brian Lee's home phone number in Nashville. And she gives it to the hospital people like he's her next of kin contact or emergency contact, right? The person that she wants notified first that she's in the hospital and losing blood is primetime Brian Lee over in Nashville. So the hospital people, they don't know who the fuck is Brian Lee. They call the number they're given, and Brian's wife answers the phone. And it's a hospital in Johnson City or whatever saying, Phoebe Figalilly over here is in the hospital here with us. She's losing blood, and she wants Brian Lee to know about this. And now Brian's wife starts yelling at him. It's like the fucking scene in It's a Gift with W.C. Fields where, what's the maternity hospital doing calling you at 2 o'clock in the morning?
I thought it was bad enough you told everyone you were the Undertaker, and now this.
Well, that wouldn't happen for about 2 or 3 years. But anyway, so she's now yelling at him. Who's this fucking girl calling you from the hospital? And he gets on the phone and says hello. And these hospital people again say, Phoebe Figalilly's here in the hospital, and she wants you to know, and she's losing blood. And he said, let me know when the bitch is 2 quarts low, and hung up on him.
Oh, my God, Jesus.
And that was the greatest fucking line. And that's why I blurted out, let me know when the bitch is 2 quarts low. That's something.
So wait, what did Stacy say to you that caused you just go right to the punchline?
She read a text from somebody about a fucking... It's about a person who had a health issue, and it just after 30 years, that just struck me, and I just blurted that line out. And there you go.
Hey, let me ask you a quick question that came up while you were telling that story. You obviously wanted women to be into the babyface wrestlers, and you wanted them to at least frequent the gimmick table, so they're spending some money there, the guys like that. Did you ever have problems, or forget that? How often did you have problems with women who would kind of take over the table in a sense? They weren't going to leave. They were going to go there, and they were going to stand there and hover over the table no matter who came to talk to the wrestler.
Well, you always have that to some extent, just if they get lost in a conversation or...
Right, that's different, though. That's different.
Yeah, but also we had... See, I was not out at the gimmick table because I was a heel and they didn't know I had anything official to do with anything at that point in time. But between Brian Hildebrand and we had a variety of people, like Brian's wife, Pam, in some cases was on the gimmick table. And Brian was overseeing things, or Sandy Scott would drop by, or whatever the fuck, or in some cases, if there was a blockage of business, it wouldn't be the wrestler with the fans that were blocking the whole area. It would be the other guys where the people couldn't get to them. Go, hey, and they'd buzz one of the boys and they would, get rid of them. So it was self-policing. There was no, because there weren't fans back then that were going to come up and ask like essay questions about angles or talent or contracts being signed in the big companies or whatever.
No, that was when we came down. That was the only time you guys.
Yeah, that's the only time. And we set aside special time for, you guys, because that would have clogged things up. And let's be honest, except if one of the male fans knew one of the guys personally or just wanted to get a picture or autograph for their kid or whatever, say hello, the guys are not going to spend any time at the gimmick table talking to the guys because they're going to be hanging around because most of the girls in the building are at the gimmick table talking to the baby faces. So the guys would hover around, but they're not going to. It was a whole different fucking thing. The guys wanted to come and see the guys fight and shake their hand, cheer them on, but they didn't want to engage in particularly long-winded conversations. And there wasn't, autograph hunters like there are now that are going to bring all this different variety of merchandise and spread, because there was none, and spread it out. They had pictures on the table. Boom, by the picture, sign, hey, good luck tonight, blah, blah, blah. So it was self-policing.
Whatever happened to the fan? Whatever, Fenelius Pinkbottom, whatever her name was that you gave her, I forget. What, did she survive?
Phoebe Figolilly,
there we go.
Was her name.
There we go.
And Phoebe Figolilly is a silly name, but so many silly things keep happening.
But did she show up? Hold on.
A no prize to the first person who identifies the sitcom that those are words from the theme song of. But I don't know what happened to her. It wasn't my week to watch her.
But did she come back to Johnson City ever again? That's the question.
I don't know, because I wasn't out there at the gimmick table. We heard the story went around the locker room of this incident.
See, the one thing Brian Lee's wife should raise issue with is, how does she have your phone number?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Back again, it wasn't easy to get guys' phone numbers back then. You didn't have the internet and all that stuff. And so you had to be really dedicated and search and stalk and find. And that was another indication that maybe she was a little too interested in what,